All right. And I can see that we are live for indie book release. And I am Jessica Barberi. I have the pleasure to be joined by Chris Curtis, who is my narrator for my audiobooks. This is actually a special one of these because it's my book that's getting released for once. So I'm kind of flipping the script a little bit, or we're changing things up because I didn't want a monologue to myself. So I figured I would bring Chris on here since he is not only read the book because he had to narrate the book, but he's been along the ride with me for the entirety of my journey here. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to just have that perspective on. So again, Chris is my narrator. He has done, I don't know, 6, 7, 8. I don't even know how many books I have at this point anymore.
Been a lot.
He's done a lot. So we've been working together for a couple years now, and I think this is our first time to kind of. We've met a few times face to face, but like actually having a live stream conversation. So I'm looking forward to that as something fun and different here. Yeah, so with that, I'll go ahead and let you say hi to everybody, and then I'll do my pitch.
Okay. Hi everybody. I'm Chris. Yeah, I've been narrating for Jessica here for however long it's been, through 7 or so books. It's been quite the journey. It's been really cool actually seeing you evolve as an author, first of all. It's been really neat, kind of like where we started versus where we are now, and really seeing that progression. And I don't know, when we first started, it was kind of, I guess we were both starting out, and it was just really cool to see, like, it kind of was like, oh yeah, I guess I'll just do this book. It's kind of fun. We'll see where this goes. And it's just kind of turned into a whole thing that, like, I legitimately get excited every time you contact me and are like, wow, I've got a new book. Let's go. Like, I'm just so excited to see like your writing style evolve, and I'm so excited to see where your books are going to go. And honestly, a lot of your characters are really fun to narrate and play. So other than that, I'm just, here I am, and I'm just excited to be on here and talking with Jessica here. It's just exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll save some. I'm going to do my pitch. So I am here because today I am releasing the second book of my Sons of the Flame series, Bonds of Scale. And there you go. You got your first comment here. There you go. Yeah, so this is the second book in that series, and you know, I'm definitely behind schedule. The ebook is the only thing that's currently available because I'm like a monkey head cut off, right? Recently got too much going on. So the ebook is available today. I'm very excited for this. There'll be one more book if I'm going to make a pitch for it. So let's see. I would be more prepared, but I've been so like, this week has been not the best. You know, it's been a crazy week. So we're doing the best we can. But Bonds of Scale would be book 2. So you'll have to take into context that we have an exiled prince who has found himself in basically a step beside a mountain, and he has been trying to figure out how to survive and make something of himself in this period of exile while he waits for his dragon to grow large enough to eventually come home. But he is still struggling with this idea of who he is, how he can be a hero or great or wonderful, and you know, developing that ego as well as learning to work with other people. So it's an interesting story that I see this series in general as like an anti hero's journey, because it's kind of like the deconstruction of one's conception of what they want to be or what they think they should be, anti-chosen one, I guess, in a way, and coming to terms with to some degree that you are not necessarily the chosen one in your own story. So that was my terrible pitch because I did not practice anything or prepare anything ahead of time, but that's okay because here we are. So, with that, I did have some questions as far as being able to talk to you, Chris, because I'm
For
interested.
sure.
Um, Again, you've like you've mentioned that you've come along with me. You've seen the stories and my writing kind of change, evolve, grow, develop as I've done this and gotten more experience, obviously. Um, I'm curious from your perspective, like you're bringing voice to these characters, you're reading them, you're essentially like just like an actor embodies a role. Do you get attached to certain characters and,
I
you know,
do.
find yourself sad when when the story is over?
I do actually. Yeah. I find there are certain characters that I find myself like I really, really, really want to return. Like for example, actually from your first series, I really, really liked Dahi, and I thought he was really fun to play, and I thought as a character he was very interesting. And I was super excited to see him in your second series, kind of as like an older adult in this like prestigious position. Um, as an example. In general, yeah, I find you do get quite attached to the characters, and I find you kind of get into a certain like mindset when I'm doing a chapter about a specific character. Like for example, to contrast two of the main characters, like Kieran from your first series again, and then Ronan now, I find them like very, I mean, you did a great job writing them as very different people, and even narrating them, I find it makes me almost read completely differently, I feel. And like the way I want to play them and like the emotions I feel while I'm actually reading from your scripts or your novels. Um so yeah, 100% I get attached, and I find it very interesting just seeing, like, I'm just excited to see where it all goes and what characters go where. And I've noticed, I feel like you drop a little kind of, there's a lot of like continuity I find in your books. Like you drop a lot of little almost like background Easter eggs every once in a while. I feel I'll pick up on something and I'm like, oh, that's a little nod to someone like 2 books ago that was like it's like really subtle, and I really like that.
Excellent.
So
I'm glad to hear that you can pick up on because I do intentionally leave certain things. Like for those of you, I know Megan is one of my coworkers and probably biggest fan here. I see her since she's in the chat. There's a little Easter egg for where Maggie came from or who Maggie was inspired by.
uh,
Um, that gives a little payoff if you're paying careful attention. Um, but yeah, so that I mean, I find as an author, like I get attached to certain characters, and it's like, man, when I have to like when the story's over, it's like I don't necessarily want to say goodbye. I want to know what
that,
happens next. So yeah, they become sort of like your children. I'm curious as far as like when you're deciding like how to choose a voice or how to act like I know obviously authors are different, but do you find that I make it easy for you to be able to like okay embody them, or am I a good director for you, if you will, to try and breathe out that character?
I think so. I would say the ones I actually struggle the most with are probably, I don't want to say, basically the characters that are the most, I guess, like kind of normal, because it just makes me want to just use my regular voice. I find when you have a character that's like really quirky or out there, I immediately kind of just want to like snap into some like goofy voice. And I don't necessarily know if that's really the way to go, but it I find it almost easier because I can find, I'm like, oh, this is a quirky character, or this is like a really gruff character, or something like that. But I find generally the main characters I find are a little, I don't want to say harder because I think the point is they're supposed to be relatable. But I find myself almost getting caught in a loop, being like, what's the voice? What's the voice? um, but no, I find the characters in general don't take me that long to find a voice for. Just kind of, I think the way you write them, they all have a vibe. And I've also been like, I play a lot of tabletop role playing games, and I'm generally the dungeon master. So I find I just have to snap into voices pretty quick. And I guess maybe years of doing that has made it not so difficult for me to sort of just see a character and just spew a voice out. But honestly, it's fun. It's fun every time I see a new character I haven't seen yet. I have to do a little research and figure out what I might make them sound like. So I know every once in a while I'm like, oh, is this a little too over the top? I'm not sure. But so far it seems to be pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't kicked anybody back to you as far as I'm aware. I don't think I have. But yeah, I think you do a great job. The thing that I love about working with you is that you're so good at just bringing that distinction. And I'm getting yelled at, mummy, behind the door, so that's highly distracting to your train of thought. But I find it's like I rarely have to issue a correction. Like the working with you has been very like I don't feel like I need to direct you to know what I was trying to get out of something. So I don't know if we're just in sync where we you seem to be able to pick it up. Maybe I'm good at communicating what I'm trying to get, but like I very rarely have had to be like, oh, I want this read a different way. Mostly you get it like on the first time, and I think that's been fun and fabulous because it saves me effort to try and just not have to worry about that.
Makes sense.
So,
well, thank
I
you.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, your direction is also great. Like every time there's something you need corrected, you're like it's just very helpful. You'll say exactly what you need, you get it straight, and I don't know, the timestamps are great. No, I find your direction is great, and your characters are usually very readable, I guess is the right word.
Awesome. So do you have any questions for me or anything that is creeping into your mind here?
Yeah, I guess first of all, do you have a favorite character? Because I would imagine you would as the author.
Yeah, that's hard. That's a hard question because it's kind of like asking you to pick your children.
Oh, that's
like,
true.
Which one's your favorite child? But that said, it's fascinating because there are certainly characters within each of the stories that like I think I pick up and get attached to more so than others. Like I feel very motherly towards like Oren, for example. Like, I just like I liked that character. He reminds me in a way of like my own kids. And I can like see that in him. They're different, and I've created them intentionally so different. Like Kieran to me, like obviously that's the first main hero of my main series, was very much in a lot of ways he's inspired by my husband personality wise. So it would be hard to say like, oh, pick anybody other than him because he's inspired by somebody that I married. So I definitely picked that as a person. Like so I incorporated a lot of like my husband's quirks into him. So as an author, or if you know an author, be careful because they're probably going to somehow weave you into
you're going to get in there.
you're going to end up in there somehow. So Ronan was it's funny because I actually his inspiration for his character came from we had an exchange student. He's loosely based off this individual. I don't want this poor guy to be like, oh, you're so mean to me. But like he's loosely based off this individual that was like he came to our house. He's like 15 years old. He's Spanish. He's got this foofy hair, and it's like girls fell all over him. Like it was inexplicable just how much of a chick magnet this one poor kid was. Like he could go anywhere and just like chicks would just come around him and just like swamp him, and he was just like flicking them off. So it's in a lot of ways he was inspired by that. I actually had some beta readers like, this is so unrealistic. I was like, it's not, because
But this
I
was a
saw
real
it. I saw
guy.
this kid. Like, this kid was like fighting, like girls were fighting over wanting to go to prom with him. Like, it was ridiculous. It didn't make any sense. Like, he hardly talked to us, but like something about, you know, him, like in the aura that he had around him was just like unbelievable. So I kind of took him as like this inspiration for what he would be like, and then added arrogance to it. But yeah, that's
That's
fun.
hilarious. I'd imagine, yeah, it makes sense. You find people and base things off of them. I found Ronan a very interesting character after like doing the series with Kieran.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was kind of fun just to like just to be kind of an asshole.
Just he is. Yeah, it's like I said, it's this story is such a very different like thing. I always see the first series as very much like a traditional, more or less traditional, like epic fantasy where you're trying to like overthrow the evil empire kind of thing. You know, and there's good guys. And then like this story is just very different in the sense of like there's no real like bad guy per se, except for yourself, the bad guy that is yourself. And how do you not be that shitty of a person?
Yeah, it's definitely a different tone. Yeah, it's a lot more. It's really character driven.
Yeah,
and very yeah, like you've written it. I don't know. It seems you're right, because there really is no like primary antagonist, but it still feels like there's really like he's got his motivations and he's working really like towards. It feels like it's still moving, which I'd imagine would be very hard to write.
I'm looking forward to. You know, I know where it's going to, and it's this poor kid, man.
Oh no,
he can't catch a break. Yeah, everything is going to be tough for this poor person. So. You know, stick around to find out. Yeah, I think this was an interesting one to write. I did get blocked when I was writing it. I wrote the first like first half was pretty like easy, and then I just like I couldn't get past. I think it was like chapter 16 or 17 that I just got stuck on, and I felt like I couldn't write anything. And I ended up writing that. Dragon Riders of Old was written. The entire book was written while I was blocked on the other one. I'm like, I can't write anything else. I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to write something else. And I did that. And then I came back to it and I was like, I'm still blocked. I don't know what to do. And I got myself unstuck by switching perspectives. So like I had it in my head where like I'm a bit of a I would say I'm a plotter light. Like I typically like I know where the story is going to go, but I like a lot of the details kind of get fleshed out along the way.
Okay.
But so I knew where I needed to go, and I had an idea of like how the next few chapters would go, but then I was like, but it was not like it felt redundant to keep it in Ronan's perspective. And that's when I switched over to Solva and told it from the perspective of the Starka people. So in this story, for those of you who are going to go out and buy this book, I know, he's essentially the antagonist, if there is one, is a group of people. It's like a tribe of people that live out in this steppe, and they have built a culture around hunting dragons. And so you have a character who is introduced, and she's like a middle-aged woman who is, you know, was within the lower caste system of this tribe. And, you know, you're telling it from her perspective. And like that one, I think I was able to connect with her just more in general because I'm a mother. I'm kind of that same age, you know, so I was kind of putting myself into her mind of like what this would be like to move the story forward. And then once I got it unblocked, it's like, okay, I can switch back and move on. And I felt like I told something fresh. But those chapters were actually a lot of fun for me to write because it's just it was bringing in something new and fresh and different into the story. But that's one thing I actually have enjoyed about this is switching over into this is now having this new culture that I'm building where it's like you have to completely create something. Like I have to create like a whole religion. I have a whole sheet now of like what is their religious beliefs, like what are their language, like what's their language, like how do they, what are their, like a list of names, a list of deities, a list of holidays, a list of like all this stuff that I've had to, that I feel like I don't know that I had to, but like I did create to try and create some kind of society that seems cohesive and real, grounded, but very different from like a modern Western or a traditional medieval fantasy type world. So that's been fun to do. And I'm only making it weirder now. Like the third book goes in more into their society. So you get to see
Oh,
a little more of, if I get to writing it, the, the actual kind of alien nature of it compared to us.
oh,
A little more
interesting.
like vividly. So it's been fun to kind of craft that type of world.
It sounds like it. So I'm curious, what is your I'm assuming you do some kind of, I guess, like research. What is sort of like your research flow, or when you look into like trying to create these things, how do you do it?
It's a good question. With the traditional medieval stuff, like there were a lot of times when how do you make a primitive fish spear? So like doing something like that, or like how do you smoke meat, or like how do you fell trees? So like, you'll come upon like a scene, and then I'll end up digging into like trying to research just how it would have been done with primitive technology.
Okay.
I think with this new society, I I had a basis in mind. Okay, it's a kind of mountainside, northern latitude. So I ended up taking as inspiration um, the Sami was like the loosely based, okay, like a kind of a nomadic people, kind of in this type of environment. I liked the idea of like the vibrant colors and just very different society. But then now it's like, as I've gone deeper into the world building, I have to think of like, okay, so I'm trying to create something like, what do you do if you like all your men get killed by like dragons or accidents in the mountains? Like, what kind of society comes from that? And so there's even inspirations from like, other kinds of nomadic peoples like the Middle East and et cetera, where they had a lot of death like that, and how they created these marriage customs and different traditions. And it's a lot of like looking at actual anthrop- anthropology, like different groups, and trying to build something that logically suits your world. So it's part my own, part research, part just like going down rabbit holes to try and build something interesting. Yeah, you can spend a lot. I understand why a lot of people will spend a lot of time just like spinning on world building instead
I
of like
see that.
writing.
Yeah. I could imagine that would be a real trap.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I could like what a let's do the lore of the kings of their like, history. It's I try and keep. I really I think my stories, I tend to focus on only what the characters know, and I limit the point of view characters. So I'm not like I never went to the emperor's point of view or something to like give a little glean of nugget from the perspective of like leadership. You know, I tried to keep it, what would this individual actually know within the context of their world, and in a way that like frees you up from having to worry about some of that stuff. Like I don't have to build like the whole dynasty of, whatever,
I understand that.
because they don't actually know. Like they don't know what happened. So it's fun to that at least helps. It helps me stay sane. But I do get, I have my dad was like, I wish I knew more about the politics and like some of the stuff. I was like, oh, maybe I'll do a novella.
Maybe that'll come up. We'll see.
Like it's
Interesting.
not. The emperor didn't deserve books on emperor. If you know, you know. But yeah. So I'm curious as far as like what inspired you to decide to try and do some of this voice acting, to do some of the narration stuff. Like what made you want to
Hmm.
put yourself out here and do this?
Kind of also an interesting question. It was kind of like a really convoluted route to how I got here. So I did drama in high school. I really liked it. Really, I was a real drama kid. Uh, and after high school, I kind of just forgot about it. I guess I got caught up in other things. And then really what ended up happening is in 2021, I got like really badly injured, and I had to quit my job. And I just I like wasn't able to really go out and do anything physical, so I had to figure out something to do.
Yeah.
Um and so I was like, "Oh, well, like I've always kind of been interested in acting and drama, and like especially I've always toyed with the idea of like voice acting and stuff, and I listened to a lot of audiobooks. So one day I just kind of bought a microphone and I was like, well, I'll shoot my shot. I'll give it a try. And so I've kind of just been practicing. Like I started off doing really like stuff for like pennies from random, like sometimes like a little bit of YouTube videos and things like that. Until eventually I started moving up and trying to audition for things like ACX, and I found you. And it's kind of just gone from there. Slowly over a few years, I've just kind of worked my way up and committed more and slowly built up my stuff. I mean, I think my first microphone was like $35. So like it was really not great. But yeah, no, it's kind of it wasn't, if you had asked me like 5 years ago if this is where I thought I'd be, like the answer would be no. But I'm happy I'm here. I'm enjoying it. I want to keep going. And I'm excited for like whatever comes down the pipe.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, for background, like I found Chris on Upwork, and I'm very relieved because I've seen other folks like post about how they're opening their books up for auditions for audiobooks. And when I put my an original request, like I didn't know what the heck I was doing either. I was like, okay, I know I wanted an audiobook because I love audiobooks, and it felt like just a thing that I wanted. So I put out the request. You were one of, I think I got like maybe 10 responses originally, and you were the only one that actually listened to the ad and gave me an audition. And I was like, well, I mean, you can read instructions, so A plus.
Way to go.
We're doing pretty good here. And then I listened to it and I was like, actually, this is pretty good because I loved you put the voices into it, and it was like the voices just sounded like what I had kind of pictured in my head. So I was like, all right, like I think we got something here. And I've encountered folks where I was helping somebody go through, they had narrowed their, like, they had a lot of auditions and they had narrowed it down to like, I think 10 or so that they had an audition for. And like you have to listen to the same thing. And I like doing that process to try and go through somebody else's, like, which one do you think? Really made me appreciate you because you do such a good job. And there were like things that I'm like, I'm listening to these other people. I was like, oh man, that's just so boring. And it's just like, they're just like, I could just, it sounded like a screen reader. Like it wasn't compelling. There was no, like, the thing that I value in the production is like the emotion. Like you're trying to put the human into it. You're trying to put that acting chop, like, right, you bring you into the story. And it's like not everybody is capable of getting that, to do that.
Yeah,
So
I guess it's
not having to pour over 70 auditions that were terrible would be great.
yeah, I bet. Yeah, it's I guess it takes a sort of, I don't know, maybe I like acting, so every time I get character lines, I just really enjoy it, and sometimes I really try to like really go into it like full on. Like I'll pause it and take a second. Like I'll stop my recording and take a second and then try to deliver the line. I agree though. Like I always find listening to audiobooks, the ones where people do the voices and really try to get into character and things, are the most interesting to listen to.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I do my best to try to, I guess, emulate that or do it myself.
So what do you find? Yeah, what do you find is the? I guess I don't know if it's easiest or hardest, but like when you're narrating, like, I know you've definitely done some emotional scenes or some like very dramatic scenes for me, and like you can hear it in the read. Like, have you ever gotten something that's like you just you needed to get like you needed several takes to get through it, or like it just you know was challenging, or to try and find the right emotion was challenging? I don't know what I'm asking, but maybe that's something that we can lead with.
Yeah, I find some of the scenes that are more, I guess, like the emotions are maybe more like nuanced are generally, I'd say, a little harder. Like I find when a character is frustrated or angry, I find that very easy to convey. You just kind of
Yeah.
but like some of the more like tender or emotional scenes are like I have to do a couple takes every once in a while. I find I'll get stuck on a line and like I'll do like 10 takes and I'll be like it's not hitting. um and I'll usually go like hang out, chase my cats around or something and then come back. But
Yeah.
um it's yeah, I find some of the more, I guess, like, yeah, nuance. Some of the sad scenes, like the more like, yeah, just emotionally difficult and sad scenes, I find, I guess I have to push a little harder to get into it. Um, One of the things is I work from home, and usually so my wife will be like in the other room, and maybe like in the back of my mind I'm a little conscious of like if I get super emotional sounding, I'm like, oh, I'm not alone here. And and I don't know if that is like a block for me. Sometimes I have to like work around that. Um so I guess that's it. I guess certain like emotional scenes I found, for example, um doing some of the scenes with, what was her name? I completely blanked. The Starka woman that
Oh,
you,
Silva, yeah.
yeah, Silva. I found some of Silva's scenes maybe a little more difficult to do, especially when her dealing with her son. Maybe it's because it's a perspective that I don't personally have as a 30-year-old man who has no children. um, but so I had to do a couple more takes with those, and I'd say generally kind of the nuanced more, when there's multiple emotions in one or two lines, I find that generally the most difficult to convey, I guess.
Yeah.
That was
Like
a bit
I
of a
can, I
ramble
can.
there. Sorry.
No, I get it. Like I can imagine that. um, I find so. I've been doing some of the. I'm working. I believe you're aware, but I'm working to redo some of the original books, and I'm voicing some of the characters now. Uh, and it's been interesting because like I find there's a fine line of like believability versus like overly theatric. And
Yeah.
in a way, I think like I guess I'd be interested in your opinion. Like for an audiobook reading versus like a film or like something acted, like to me, it almost seems like maybe you should lean a little more in the almost the theatric versus not, because you don't have the visual and you don't have the music to kind of
Yeah.
build that emotion. So I'm curious as far as your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah, because I find to convey the emotions, also, you're right, you don't have a visual, you don't have music. I guess also with a book, there's less, I'd say, like sound effects and dialogue. So yeah, when you deliver those lines, you kind of have your one shot, because it'll be like a paragraph and then one or two character voice lines, right? And so I guess you really have to lean into that. But I understand what you're saying about the fine line between like, is this adequate? Like, is this the right emotion, or is this like way over the top and super cheesy?
Yeah.
And I do actually think it depends on what character you're playing. Because I feel like there have been a few characters that I've done for you where I feel like I gave it like 110% and just almost on purpose went really cheesy, and it worked out. But there's other characters where I feel that if I did that, it would just almost feel wrong and out of character. So I guess it doesn't. Yeah, but I agree for the most part. I completely agree with what you're saying. I'd say it's better to give it, go harder, lean further into the emotion or further into the character than it would be to just kind of I mean, why are you reading the voice line if it's just if this is the voice you're hearing right here for everything, then what, why did you even get me to do it? Right.
Yeah. I'm with you there. Like, I know that there seems to be a preference divide. Like, there are certainly those people that are like, I just like the flat readings. I'm like, I can't tell the characters apart. Like, they just blend together. Like, it's not that it's bad, but it's like, I mean, I could get a screen reader again to do that for me. And it's the same kind of, I want the emotion, like the real, I want to be immersed in the world of, within the context of an audiobook. I want to be more immersed in the world and to have that experience, like that you're, as it's not really a movie, but it's like the movie in my head. Like, I want the movie in my head assisted. Do you have a favorite character that you voiced for me? I'm curious.
Okay. There were a couple that, well, first of all, like I said, I really enjoy voicing Ronan just because he's just kind of an asshole and it's just fun. I really liked Dahi. I found him difficult to voice, but I feel like every time he's like on screen, I can like hear the like quirky music playing. Like it's like I really like him. Another character, there was one that was in your first series who appeared, I think, in the first book of the second series. It was an Imperial officer that, for whatever reason, I read his dialogue and I gave him like a really screechy voice. and, and I thought he was so fun to play. And then I actually noticed when you brought him back in the second series, you specifically mentioned the voice that I did.
I did.
You're like, and he screeched, and I was like, it's this
guy. So you can play off of each other. But yeah, you did. I picked up on that. It's like, yep, that's the guy, and like that's in my head now, and it's like they become that.
Yeah. So, and on that note, I'm actually curious: is there any characters that, when you heard my recording of, you were like, "Whoa, that is not what I expected"?
So I think the one that was probably not what I had pictured was Finn, but
okay.
He got it. I've acclimated now, and like now that's his voice. Like it's like but the first time I was like, I don't know, is that right? My tendency has been to go with your gut, like to trust you. And so even if I have one that's like, I don't know that that's quite right, I'm like, I don't care. I'm gonna let you do it, and we'll see how it goes because it hasn't burned me yet. I feel like.
Well, that's good. Glad to hear that. Any corrections are welcome.
No, you're fine. Like again, like I have a very trust the artist kind of perspective on a lot of things. It's like it's not just my story. That's I'm the writer and I'm creating something and I do have an intention in what I'm creating, but like I want it to be others as well. Like I want the story to go out and become what's in other people's minds and to build on that. So maybe I'm a democratic mindset.
There you go. Get everybody in there.
Yeah, like I have a guy that he's done some of my covers, and he also does like the little interior iconography and stuff. And it's fun because I'll give him an idea of like something like the crown. So the Starka women wear a crown according to who class that they've married into. And I was like, okay, a crown of horns. And I was like, I don't like. There's not really anything. You know, you have the Viking like Viking horns, kind of a thing. And you know, I've seen that, but that wasn't what I wanted. And so I tried to describe like the idea of what it was to him, and then I just let him just draw it, and he like drew this thing, and I was like, that's perfect, like that's great, you did great, like that's better than I would have came up with. So it's fun to let the creative like to acknowledge that this is a creative endeavor, and like by pulling in other people, like you can get different takes that maybe weren't exactly what you thought, but then like are better. Oh, the older male.
trying to think of who
She
that
likes
is.
the Light Warden, probably. I'm guessing it's the Light Warden.
Oh, okay. um, it kind of reminds me of actually doing the Light Warden, and I find a lot of characters like that kind of fall into the same like category.
Wise
Like
old
sort of like,
sage.
yeah, the wise old like sage man. And it's so funny because like as a dungeon master or like a game master, like I'll do a take or like I'll record a chapter with one of these guys in, and I'll come out and my wife's like, oh yeah, I heard you doing your wizard voice again.
It's the wizard voice. That's awesome.
And it's I find like that's just the like every time we get a character like that, I just want to like throw in that voice. It's kind of fun. So I actually have a question for you then about sort of your character development. You've mentioned you're sort of you have like plot points, but it seems you write somewhat organically. Um, have been any like character arcs or directions or anything like that that you kind of just didn't see coming? Like you wrote it and you were like, whoa, okay, that happened. Um,
Yeah, so I would say like the biggest, it's funny because like the original series, I had an idea in mind and it totally went off the rails in a totally different direction. But I would say the main thrust of what happens near the end of Dragon Riders of Old was not what I originally had planned to happen. Um, Mostly with like Phelim's character, like he kind of took the wheel and went his own way. Again, if you know, you know. But like that development of it was like when you've created a character, sometimes you create them in such a way it's like the thing that you wanted them to do no longer fits. Like that like I had an expectation of what was supposed to happen, and then I was like, no, it's him. He's the instigator because that's what he would do because it's that's the personality. I've created this person that is, you know, so rigid and dogmatic and like certain. So yeah, he definitely got off the rails and changed my whole ending. So
he was a very interesting character. I really, really like when you brought him and I was reading that book. I was like hooked on Phelim. I thought he was like super interesting, organic, and compelling, like villain almost. Like I don't know. He
yeah,
was really cool. I
yeah.
really, really, really liked him.
He's fun because like, you know, I've seen reviews come back and it's like people fall into like they're interested in him, compelled by him, like they find him interesting or they hate him. And he's one of my polarizing characters. So like Ronan's been polarizing because he's an asshole. And
Yeah.
then Phelim was polarizing to people, which was fascinating to me to like see just because I loved writing him was he's one of my favorite characters to actually write chapters for. Like he was just fun because he's so different like than me. And I think that that's like for me as an author, like I don't want self-insert characters. I want to explore this idea of like what is it to get into somebody so alien's mind or different than me. So I love writing characters that like I don't necessarily relate to personally. Like I don't act like that or think like that because it gives you an opportunity to get into somebody else's head and kind of explore like how do they tick? Like what is their internal logic and how do you create that internal logic and make it consistent and like and build somebody that's real, but like I come away with like a new understanding uh, of like a different kind of mind and it's fun. But yeah, he is like he's fascinating because like that story, you know, it's telling a legend of like the heroes of history, right? So like you know in the end like they're whitewashed as the good guys, but like they were not just that.
Oh.
So it's like they were complex men, like they weren't just but like I don't know, they're more interesting than that. So to me that was fun.
Yeah, I bet. So what was I guess what characters did you find like the most difficult to write? It sounds like maybe Phelan was somewhat, like you said, he's very different. But anything else that really you found, like, I guess, different or difficult or anything like that?
So he like, and again, I don't know that he was difficult to write, but he was fun to write. Like he was different. You have to think really, but he had such consistent internal logic that it made it easy.
Yeah.
So I think like some of it's like I don't know who would be like somebody who is hard to write. Like I don't know that I've ever found someone like particularly challenging because like I tend to start like from the idea of like okay like let's give them a personality profile like I'm gonna place them on the big five like we're gonna just try and figure out like who they are and then try and from that build like this map of consistent logic. So like if anything it's like some of the if you want your wizard voice equivalent it's some of these like how do you write the old sage differently and make like the old sage differently so like between Calum and like the light warden and like the light keeper and like these different like wise old men like how do you give the wise old men a slightly different voice but like have them still kind of serve the same role. I think those are the hardest for me to like distinguish and to try and give a voice to.
That makes sense.
And I don't know, like, yeah, but, like Calum was more studious, the Lightwood was more like hippie, like, but they're mostly the same. Like, yeah. So I think that's like the hardest is when you have a more archetypical character. Like, how do you make your archetypical character a little bit different?
Yeah, I understand that. How do they make them not just almost like copy paste of some other guy? Yeah, that sounds difficult. I would probably fall into that trap for sure.
I mean, it's the same as kind of voicing them. Like, how do you give them different voices?
Yeah, it is. It's just the wizard voice. Throw it in there.
Throw it in there. He's the wizard. That's the one. All right. So you do. So aside from working with me, have you done? I know I've seen your voice. Like if I go on Audible, I can see that you've done other audiobooks. So what do you got going on yourself out there in the world?
So as of right now, I'm working with you. Hopefully, for however long you need me, I guess. I'm really enjoying working with you. I'm putting out some auditions right now, things like that. One of the big projects I've actually got going on right now is my wife and I are launching a company where we run like tabletop role-playing games. I would be the dungeon master for neurodivergent youth. There's like tons of benefits that come along, like for like social development and things like that. And it's fun. It's a good way to just get some people out to make some new friends, do something everybody enjoys. And honestly, frankly, something I enjoy. And so we're just launching that hopefully really soon. So we're really excited about that. We've been working on it for a while. I've actually been developing my own game for it. So not exactly voice acting related, but that's the big project we've really got on the go right now. So I'm very excited about that.
So how do people find that or get information if they're interested in learning more?
Yeah, well, we've got a website up right now. It's kind of the art is I'm doing the art on it, so it's kind of, half of it's done. But it's called Quirky Quest. If anybody wants to look that up, take a look at it. It hasn't launched quite yet, unfortunately, because it's just my wife and I that are launching it right now. It's very local to the lower mainland of British Columbia and Canada. But if anybody wants to check it out, like it's hopefully worth a look. We're very excited about it. So it's kind of a little passion project of ours, I guess. So yeah, that's really what we've been doing on.
Yeah. So is this like, are you doing like in-person type of get-togethers or are you doing it virtually or what do you see? How do you see this developing?
So we're hoping to start with in-person sessions. Probably, we're probably hoping to get like groups of like 6 or so people to come in and be like the party, and probably do once a week. We're hoping to get maybe 3 groups going to start just to see how that works as far as like logistics go, and can I kind of juggle doing this with also writing adventures and running them and like things like that, all the things that come with running tabletop role-playing game sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, we think we might start to branch out to maybe virtual sessions, things like that. Ideally, in the future, we would be able to reach wherever, right? Hopefully, we can start to branch out to different cities, maybe like across the border. But that's, I guess, long-term goals. Right now, we're just launching. So
yeah, just launch, get out the door. But I like that idea. Is like if you're creating your own system, etc., then in theory, you could kind of like franchise it out.
Yeah,
Get
pretty
more
much.
people participating. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. So I think that's great. I have an autistic niece who got into tabletop role playing games, and that's been fantastic because my husband does that. He likes to play, and so it's given them like this thing that they can talk about and relate to each other and like really help build their relationship. So that's been good. I think it's good for the kids for sure. I've seen the benefits.
Yeah.
So I definitely wish you luck with that.
Thank you.
Do you have a presence anywhere else, or are you keeping a low profile?
I've got a unfortunately low profile. I honestly, I should start getting more of a social media presence. I've been considering. I'm gonna get a website for my narrations and voice acting and stuff up pretty soon, hopefully. And I should probably start doing Instagram reels and things like that. But as of right now, to be completely honest, it's unfortunately small. So I kind of took a step back from social media probably around 2019 or so. And I honestly don't regret it. But as far as launching business,
I'm only there because I have to sell books.
Exactly. And now that I'm kind of starting to get back into that, I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably start getting back in there for exactly that reason. So
yeah, the network helps for sure. Yeah. I quit Facebook. I don't know what year it was. Maybe 2020. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to have any of this. And it was a good time. And then I wrote a book, and then I was like, I have to market this somehow. Shoot, I need to open all this crap back up.
Yeah, right.
And
gotta get back in there.
All these accounts are back, and yeah. So if any of you guys like Chris's voice, if you are interested in narration, and you want to be put in contact, I happen to know how to do so. So you are welcome to reach out to me, and I will help you reach out to him. But yeah, he's been a pleasure to work with. I've enjoyed the heck out of it. And I thank you for coming on with me and doing this.
Of course, it's been super exciting. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's been a fun little hour here. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. I have to get out of here and back to work, the real world, woohoo. But yeah, so Bonds of Scale is out. If you haven't done Legacy of Blood yet and you want to start there, I think it's going to be part of the base book sale, which starts on the 11th, and it will be 99 cents on the ebook version. So get it then. And you can go ahead and buy the other one now. That's perfectly fine with me. You can get a head start. But yes, I'm excited to get this out there. The audiobook will be forthcoming once I get my head out from under all the water that is my job, and can start listening to tracks again. But yeah, it's been fun. So thank you, Chris, for coming on to celebrate with me the release of this book. It's been fun to chat with you, and I hope other people enjoy the stream and learn something, or get something out of it. And I'm going to go ahead and end this stream.